Merry Christmas Eve, Bulls Nation. If Santa Claus slides down that chimney tonight and gives the Chicago Bulls a brand new head coach, I'm going to be the happiest person in the world. I am ready for a new head coach. All I want for Christmas is Billy Donovan to get the hell up out of Chicago. I cannot stand Billy Donovan, and I know he's got a lot of supporters. A lot of people defend him. I don't understand it at this point, especially after last night's game. Last night's game is another example during the Billy Donovan tenure of the propensity to play down to the competition. No Dame, no Giannis. It doesn't matter. The Chicago Bulls aren't going to show up for that. It's another example of a game where, the stakes are kind of ratcheted up. The Bulls, they've been kind of competitive this year. I know we all hate that word because of AK, but they've been competitive this year. The stakes are a little ratcheted up. We're trying to stay alive in the play-in race. We're trying to fight for that possible 6 seed, that possible 7 seed. The East is kind of a mess this year at the bottom. So it's a game with some stakes, a game you'd think the Bulls would have showed up for, a veteran team like the Chicago Bulls would have shown up for. They didn't show up. They weren't inspired. Billy Donovan's not a leader of men. We've seen this time and time again in his tenure. My biggest thing with Billy Donovan is he's a plan A guy. He has a plan A. Coming into the game, he's got a plan A. There's no plan B with Billy Donovan. There is no pivot. There's no adjustments. If plan A ain't working, we're going to keep trying plan A. Last night, plan A, this season plan A has been shoot the three. Last night, we're shooting 20% from three in the first half. What's he come out in the second half and do? Keep shooting the three. Hopefully it's going to fall. There's no plan B. There's no get to the rim. There's no creativity. There's no designing, trying to get easier shots. It's still just jack up as many threes as you can. Last couple of years, plan A was DeMar DeRozan, isolate, do your thing. When plan A wasn't working, we were still going to do it. There was never a plan B. Billy Donovan never has a plan B. There's never adjustments. So we've never seen him get the most out of this roster. The good coaches out there, they get the most out of the roster. Look at Jody Fernandez with the Brooklyn Nets. That roster is dog shit. He's squeezing the most out of that roster. Look at Will Hardy with the Utah Jazz. That roster is dog shit. He has squeezed the most out of that roster. The last couple of years, the Jazz have been in a spot to make the play-in tournament until the deadline when they decide to sell everybody and tank. But thanks to Will Hardy's coaching, they've been in that position. Will Hardy squeezes the most out of that roster. Even the Charlotte Hornets, I'm not a fan of their roster. They've been killed by injuries. Their first-year coach, Charles Lee, squeezes the most out of that roster. You can never say Billy Donovan squeezes the most out of this roster. And Billy Donovan apologists, they always point to the roster construction. They're always like, well, what's he supposed to do? Granted, the roster construction, not great. I'm not going to defend it. I will never defend AK. But if you think Billy Donovan has no input on the roster construction, this is his 5th year. He's in a partnership with the front office. We know he has power. If you think he has no input over this roster construction, you're out your goddamn mind. Why do you think we have so many guards? Billy Donovan loves 3-guard lineups. You don't think he's talking to the front office, telling them, get me more guards? He 100% has input on the roster construction. So I don't understand why people use that to defend Billy Donovan. And even if you look at the roster construction, yeah, there's major flaws. Obviously, I think every team in the NBA, minus the top 2 to maybe 4 teams in the NBA, you can point at their roster and say there's major flaws with the construction. But the Bulls have still had talent. They've still had talent on this roster for the last 5 years, and it's the same thing over and over. It's the same Billy Donovan-isms over and over. So I'm done with Billy Donovan. I know I'm going to have to put up with him for a couple more years because the Bulls are the Bulls. They're never going to fire him. They're probably going to let him ride his contract out and transition into the front office, but I'm over it, man. If I had one Christmas wish, it would be a new head coach for the Chicago Bulls. So let me know in the comments, what you guys think about Billy Donovan. If you're still supporting him, please tell me why. Try to make it make sense because it don't make sense to me.